So that argument like doesn't inherently mean being different isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it's a good thing. Otherwise, every champion feels exactly the same, and that's boring. Then you get Annie in every game. If we never stopped making new champions, we would just have 130 champions that do the same thing as Annie. Death Realm is different, but he is pretty similar. I agree. Mordekaiser isn't that unique, although the AP aspect of it does make him, to some extent, unique. Oh yeah, TheKingofEloHell, no worries. I'm very open to conversations as long as like people are willing to talk things through. I won't get offended, and you appear to be doing that, so I really do appreciate that. My tone of voice might not always convey that, but that's how I feel. So first, what is your assumption with like the purpose of the rework? It wasn't to increase his play rate. I think it was to make him more sustainable long term while maintaining what felt like Mordekaiser, is what I would say. It is not, you can't just like increase play rates because play rate is like a zero-sum game. Whenever you increase one champion's play rate, it decreases someone else's. Yeah, also, there were benefits to the amount of bugs that just got fixed. So, if your next point is people don't feel like it's Mord, I'm not going to agree or disagree. It sounds like you have a lot of data that suggests people don't think that's the case, but what I can say is that just means we failed. We failed in our goal. Again, I'm not sure one way or the other, though. And that's perfectly fair reason. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean we can do much for it, right? Like... people call everyone useless. What champion doesn't get called useless? This Jinx is oh, Kali absolutely gets called useless when she feeds her ass off. This Jinx is not doing too hot. Bit unfortunate. She, Are you talking about the old Mord? That's like part of the problem though, isn't it? That's indicative of a bad kit? Or a kit with like problems? Just because people don't like champions doesn't mean they're bad champions. If other people sufficiently like them, they can be worth it still. I disagree with that statement. I think people not understanding how a champion works is a lot of factors go into that. If a champion isn't designed well, it'll be harder to understand. So, all the statements, I'm not sure how the statements you're making tie into like the bigger picture. These make assumptions that you need multiple ways to play, you need multiple decisions, you need like, none of the things you're saying tell me like, okay, the rework was a failure, okay, we should do something differently. Those are all just things that happened, or things that are. It's like, I don't know, Jinx really only has one way you should play her, but she's a super successful character. Or some, maybe that's not the best example, but like... I mean, those things make some characters fun. Some people like simplicity, and I think simplicity needs to be represented meaningfully as well. Oh god. Man. Right, like, we want Garen to stay simple. So this Mord wasn't intended to be super complex. It seems like you're making the assumption that that champion needs to be complex to be successful. I mean, there's no skill to master in Malphite. Does that mean he's a bad champion? Champions that are, like... Ryze has gone through this problem many times, and we still haven't solved it. The champion has been too hard to master for too long. And that has different problems. Why is that an issue when a champion... It's an issue because if a champion is so strong that only pros are allowed to play it, or it dominates the meta. So first I'm going to make a statement. If one champion is dominating pro, that is a bad experience for the player base as a whole for a few reasons. Let's assume that statement is true. I don't think that statement's too big of an ask. If we have to nerf them because... Hold on. If we have to nerf them because they're too dominant in pro, that means they'll likely have too low of a win rate in normal games. The follow-up statement there is champions should be able to be played by someone. So if a champion is that good, we have to, in pro only, we have to nerf them. And if we're nerfing them that hard, that means the rest of the player base is not allowed to play them. Or not allowed to pick them if they want to feel like they have a reasonable chance of winning the game. It doesn't give, so... tell me someone who likes losing 90% of their games while learning a champion. Like, that's just not a good experience for too many people. A champion can't be that weak and that difficult. It won't succeed as a champion. Yeah, but... So, it does to certain people. Maybe it doesn't matter to you, but, like... I'm curious as to how you're coming to that conclusion, because everything that I've seen suggests the opposite. Right, like, just because it's not to you, doesn't mean that the vast majority of players don't feel the same way. I don't have, like, data to back that up, but life cycles of pick rates, I can anecdotally say I've looked at many pick rates of many different champions over time, how they've ebbed and flowed, and based on various win rates, how those numbers shift. And they very consistently shift, their play rate shifts significantly down if they are too weak. Meaning, people don't feel like they have a chance of winning when they play that champion, when they pick that champion.
What doesn't matter? When I said, what's the it in that word? Comic says it. I mean, ranked is different things for different people. Some people just exclusively play ranked. Some people play normals to learn. Some people, right, like, I don't know, I've tried learning new champions too, but it's not a fun experience getting... You want to feel like you have a chance of winning, or there's something to reach towards. This is actually something that Yasuo as a champion does very well. When you lose on him, you feel like you know what you could have... You feel like there are things... Jesus Christ. You feel like there are things you could have done better to win the game. So, there aren't enough, like... When champions are that weak, the player rate is, like, abysmally small.
So you're assuming that people didn't read the kit because it was too long, and so people never learned what it did. I mean, these are two different problems, right? Like, I think both statements I'm saying can be true. The statement I'm saying is true, can be true, while your statement is also true. So those two aren't, like, inherently related. I still don't see how it's related. Like, yes, the champion was difficult to learn for bad reasons. There's difficulty in learning, and there's difficulty in, like, playing well. That's poor design. I would say that's poor design. That is an example of a champion that was not designed as well as it should have been.
So, you can be easy to play and hard to learn, but, like... a good example of this. So Yasuo is a champion that is like relatively easy to play and hard to learn. Except the things you learn make him much better. Like when you get better at that champion, your win rate over time goes way up. A champion like, I don't know, I'll say Rammus. Rammus also has a lot of subtleties to his kit. Lee Sin, well, no, Lee Sin's not the example I'm looking for. I'm saying a champion that has a very long learning curve, but the more you learn about them doesn't necessarily make you significantly better at the champion. So like, this is, we're gonna do some drawing. This is a win rate. This is, let's say, 50%. And this is number of games. So Yasuo will do something. Oh no, Jesus. Yasuo does something like this. His win rate is like very long. It keeps going up. Malphite does something like this. This is like 1 game, 5 games, 10 games, 50 games, whatever. Yasuo's is completely, or Malphite's completely flat. I would be willing to assume that Mordekaiser was something like this. It's probably something like this, where you're still learning. It hasn't plateaued. You're still learning, but you're gaining like 1 or 2% win rate. So even though you're learning all these new things, it's not actually translating into more wins. So even though he can be like super complex, that's not good enough. So now let's say he's a pro problem, so we have to nerf him. Now he lives down here. Now he's doing this. No one wants to learn this and aspire to like a 45% win rate champion. That's not exciting. That's the problem I'm trying to make. Or the... Oops. That's the argument I'm trying to make. So... I don't know what you are basing your percent increases on, so I'm going to explain some of the things that I have historically based this off of in the past. I've done a lot of these. We do it. That's like part of our job is understanding champion growth. There are a lot of things to dig into here, actually. So champion mastery, one of the first steps is how complex is a champion. The next is how much effort does it take to learn those complexities. The next is when you learn those intricacies, how much more likely are you to win a game? And then on top of all that, there's like how difficult is it to play against? I can't talk to them right now. I'm too busy talking in chat. How difficult are they to play against? How difficult are they? What are mastery curves look like of similar champions? So there are a bunch of reasons why I could suggest that playing with is also a big thing. That's probably one of the steepest things, but you need a different curve for that. That's not gonna be this curve. That's gonna be, you know, the lifetime of League of Legends curves. It looks very different. Wait, are we getting trolled? It's like we're waiting 5 minutes. Also, win rates in Challenger are not the most reliable for a few reasons. 1, sample size is generally pretty low. 2, it's indicative of other stuff. There's so many. It's such a smaller ecosystem that the same thing isn't like the same rules don't apply. I mean, I'm happy to be wrong about the decisions that were made. I am just of the opinion that the decisions have been very well thought out in a lot of ways, and that context is context that people just don't have, so I'm happy to share it. So, where are you going with the argument though? Like, I'll agree, Old Mord fostered team play, right? It was worked into his kit. I remember playing it on live. I had an Italy support who ended up ditching the lane. It was one of the worst experiences I've ever had in League of Legends. Because my ally didn't help me enable my own champion. Felt awful.
Gotcha. I mean, yes, his thematics shifted. I'm actually really bad at discussing thematics. I care more about the gameplay to the point where, like, look, I'm playing this fucking game. Like, look at the thematics here. The goal is to get to the hot babe at the top. There are 2 inputs that are difficult to do. Where's the plot? Where's the cohesion? I just gonna set up. Come on, our queue. Yeah, Yeah, one of the most frustrating things for me ever in like my job is when I have serious game health concerns about certain aspects of a kit. I'm like, this doesn't seem sustainable. I think there are going to be some real problems with it. They're like, yeah, but it's thematic. And I was like, ugh, it hurts. I don't care. I don't care about the thematics. Yeah, that guy's creeping. I never thought of that. I don't know. I only end up there when I fall, and, well, I have to get above there to fall there first, so it might be a bit. I can think of a real good example of that. Tom Kench W. Hated that ability. That ability was awful. I mean, it has lots of similarities with, I'd say it's a modernized Death Realm. So the difference between that is whoever he ults can fight back. With Poppy, you could ult the support and then murder anyone. So there are some key differences, but obviously there's some similarities too. I mean, AP Bruiser is his own. Yep, I think he's a pretty boring champion. I agree with all that. But you know, it was more trying to capture a thematic, some Metalmancer dude. I guess. I don't know. I don't know what the thematic is. Like, there's a reason that champion exists. He's probably just like doomed to not be that exciting because he doesn't have anything super that you can like super attach to, and that's a problem. Fuck. Yeah, that is true. That adds to the reasoning as to why that champion might not do too well in the longer term. Yeah, that's his thematic hook. You carry around a big mace. That's it. How did the big mace come to be? It existed. Enjoy your champion. Yeah, anything lore or thematic related, I'm just gonna assume I agree with you and we'll make no further argument. Wait, you don't think that's legit? Yeah, I can't, I'm learning so much about the lore right now. This is all news to me. Yeah, I think part of the reason we didn't want to do... I'm actually not sure. I don't know specifically why we didn't want to do that ult. I think there were some reasons of, like, it's just not sustainable, or it wasn't at the time, for what it does. I don't know. It would make more sense to prioritize champions being fun. It's like, I don't know, what should a champion do in League of Legends? That's like actually a pretty loaded question with no easy answer. Yep, that's fair. I encourage you to do such a thing. Yeah, the problem with, like, re-examining it, like, think about how much effort we probably put into not only the first rework, but the second rework. And it, quite frankly, just didn't do what we needed it to do. Now think of how much more we would have to do without the guarantee that it'll work out. It's like, there's probably better uses of our time. That's just how it is. What's not fair about that? Why is it not fair for us to try and use our time as efficiently as possible?
way behind.
I think the biggest problem with Morde
At 20.
the gain of the ghost wasn't worth the number of bugs it was perpetually going to cause and not be sustainable long term. That's probably the biggest problem with it.
No, 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 no.
Don't do it.
Yeah!
Alright, we're good. We got it. Damn, dude. I mean, I think that's the reason. I'm not actually sure, but I think it is pretty widely accepted that controlling pets in League of Legends, the vast majority of players don't find that interesting or exciting. You can for sure do it correctly. It's just, I mean, the time it takes to do it correctly, you could do many other things which would be higher value. It's always a trade-off, and play rates suggest that Mordekaiser was not worth those trade-offs.